I had some disturbing dreams. I've had nightmares before, but not like these. You just wonder where the heck they're coming from. The first thing you wake up, you might think about it. It might be the last thing you think about before you go to sleep. It's going to be with us for the rest of our lives. My brothers didn't die in a fire. My brothers were murdered. They were all murdered.
This is the story of the worst day in the history of the New York Fire Department, and of two firehouses as they struggle to cope with the aftermath of September the 11th and the enormity of their loss. Six days have passed since the attacks on the World Trade Center. Firemen are missing from nearly every firehouse in the New York area. Just across the Brooklyn Bridge in Brooklyn Heights is Midar Street Firehouse. Here, 8 men are missing. Their ladder crew never came home.
So here we have a picture of Ladder 118. Some photographer caught this just before they went into Manhattan. That's their last run. I could imagine what's going through their minds, the fear they must have felt, the anxiety. Just God bless them.
You can just see how unbelievable that is. No matter how many times I look at it, I can't believe it.
With 20 years service, Richie Murray is the longest-serving firefighter at this house. He has taken on the task of organizing the funerals.
Family members request the bagpipes, which is a tradition in the fire department. Due to the so many amount of funerals, they can't distribute the bagpipes enough. So what they were doing is now getting high schools that have bagpipes.
What is it, one guy with a bagpipe?
No, it's the school.
Oh, the whole thing?
Yeah, there's a class of bagpipers from Xaverian High School. Volunteered their services to play Amazing Grace for us. It's the worst sound that we ever hear. You hear them and you know someone died. That's it. They're not even an enjoyable experience anymore. When they start playing, you know,
965.
Here we go.
05. And that's for me, John Sorrentino, Richie Murray, or Paul DiPaolo.
8 of my good friends are missing, and probably 30 to 40 other friends of mine are missing. And there's no good reason for it. There's not, you can't give me a, we're rescuers. The building was attacked. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a natural disaster. And I'm angry about it.
Bobby Regan, he's missing. He has 2 kids. Pete Vega's missing. He has one small baby. Bobby Wiles, he's missing.
How's everything going there?
Bobby Wiles has 4 kids. He does. Bobby, he has 4 kids. He's actually separated, and all his kids are living with him. So, Scotty Davidson, 2 little kids. Joe Agnello, 2 very little kids. Leon Smith has 3 kids. We are thinking of them as missing. We are operating in present tense. You know, we're realistic. We're down there. We see what's going on. But we're still hoping for a miracle. Who's to say it couldn't happen?
In the heart of Midtown Manhattan, 3 blocks away from the Empire State Building, is the home of Engine 1 Ladder 24, the firehouse on West 31st Street.
As agents begin to win the battle of solving this case, they continue to seek help from you. It all starts with the associates of Osama bin Laden.
We showed us some pictures and asked if CNN.
It's one of the busiest firehouses in the city. Both fire trucks were destroyed on September the 11th, but now the firehouse is back in service. Captain of the house and a fireman for 22 years is Kenny Erb. He hasn't been home or slept for 6 days.
We heard all these things in the media about they were expecting some other attacks. You know, we have Penn Station here. Down the street is Empire State Building. We have a lot of targets. At 6 o'clock in the morning, we did get a call for a fire in the Empire State Building. You know, and you know, we're all going out of here with our heads bowed. And just you can imagine what's running through our minds. You know, it turned out to be a false alarm.
Much of Captain Kenny's time is spent trying to get extra men to cover the 6 he lost.
Engine 1, Captain Erb.
Okay. All right, how you doing? Yeah. Well, my prayers are with your family. Okay. All right, take care. Bye. That was the guy telling me where I was telling you before where the guy's coming from. He's coming from Engine 26, who lost their whole company, and he lost his brother. His brother, he's driving the chief. His brother drives the chief in the 9th Battalion. And, you know, how guys are able to still work when their own family is still buried, I really don't know, but I guess it's a testament to their dedication to the fire department and the job that they have to do.
At Manhattan, unlike at Brooklyn, the bodies of all but one of the men were recovered in the first 2 days. Steve Wojciechowski has been a firefighter here for 15 years.
All right, guys. All right. God bless America, boys. I haven't really had time to reflect since this tragedy on September 11th. You know, I couldn't even tell you what today's date is. It's like, I guess, being dropped off in a jungle in a war zone and finding out, like, you know, you lost half your guys in a battle. It just doesn't happen. And the first news I heard was that Father Mike had died. And I was just totally devastated. You know, I started crying. You know, I couldn't believe it. He was probably, you know, the first person to die as far as our casualties. From there, I knew it was going to be just a long road, you know, and we're just in the beginning of it now.
Father Michael Judge was the fire department's chaplain, attached to the West 31st Street firehouse. His funeral has done nothing to lay to rest the dreadful memories of that day. Within minutes of the first strike, every available fire truck in Manhattan was heading downtown. Battalion chiefs and their elite rescue squads began to set up their command center at the bottom of the World Trade Center.
Our high-rise operations are really written for one floor of fire. We don't have anything written for 10 or 15 floors of fire, so that fire was never going to go out. It really became a rescue operation.
Amongst Captain Kenny's men responding to the scene was Mike Yarambinski of Engine 1.
We knew we were assigned to put out the fire. As an engine company, that is our main function in the fire department, is to put out fires. And when we got up there, we didn't really know what we were going to be doing. That was more like a war zone than a fire zone.
Also rushing to the scene from Captain Kenny's station was Frank Osello of Ladder 24. Each firehouse has a ladder company dedicated to search and rescue.
It was pretty much a numb feeling. I definitely thought something was going to happen to us, like firefighters, definitely, because it was too big, too much fire, too high.
Then, to the horror of the watching world, a second plane was flown into the South Tower.
as I was looking up, I was ready to start crying watching these people jump out of the building, one right after the other, and there was absolutely nothing I can do about it. You know, and sometimes when I close my eyes to go to sleep at night, those are the pictures I see. It's those people jumping out, you know, and what their mindset was when they were jumping out. You know, they were just trying to escape the flames, you know, and we know that when people jump from high distances, you know, a lot of people don't understand why they do that, but when your body is starting to get burned, you will happily jump out of a building rather than be burned alive.
While Frank Osello joined the search and rescue effort in the South Tower, Mike Yarembinski was nearing a staging post on the 22nd floor of the North Tower.
As we're going up the stairs, a slew of people are coming down the stairs. Lots of people are coming down. Surprisingly enough, these people were very calm. Mostly all of them had bottles of water in their hand. We were sweating, and you know, they saw us walking up and they said, "God bless you. You know, wish you guys the best." And they were handing us the water, and we take a swig of water and we pass it to the next guy down in the line. About 3 or 4 minutes later, the whole building started to shake. It was rumbling, and my initial thought was that our building was coming down. And at that point I started, saying my prayers.
The rumbling was in fact the South Tower beginning to collapse. Frank Osello was in the lobby.
Someone screamed there was another plane, and you heard glass breaking and a rumbling. It sounded like an avalanche coming towards you. We turned to run away, but the force of the wind just threw us, like picked me up and threw me up against the wall. I slid down the wall and landed where I landed and just covered up. And then I-beams and concrete and building and everything was just falling all around us.
Alive but trapped below the fallen South Tower, Frank and his colleagues looked around for an escape route.
It was very dark, very white, very smoky. And it was actually pretty eerie because the smoke was going out and you actually seen the sun. So it was like, I don't know, it was weird. It was like walking, like it was something that we should have been walking out of. That's the feeling I got. Like it was something, I don't know, like maybe God's hand. Because we were there for 5 minutes looking for something to get out. And it felt weird. It didn't feel real walking out of it. We just grabbed everybody and told them to go this way, and we got them all out. I obviously didn't know the tower collapsed until we got to the street. So when I turned around and I looked up, as the smoke cleared, there was no tower there. So I could not believe there was no tower there. And I couldn't believe it fell on top of us and we got out. That was amazing.
Mike Yarembinski on the 22nd floor of the North Tower was ordered to get out.
I started walking out of the building, and I just couldn't stop looking at these people jumping, and it was very, very upsetting to me. I was compelled to go back. I wanted to go back, and then all of a sudden somebody yelled out, "It's going." And I remember looking up, and I remember seeing that antenna coming down. So as I was running, I kept looking behind me, watching this cloud chasing me. I ended up turning a corner just as the dust and the debris was starting to hit me. I got around the corner and into a building.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward. And freedom will be defended. The resolve of our great nation is being tested.
Richie Murray had arrived in his own car with 3 other off-duty Brooklyn firefighters. The last transmission from Ladder 118 was that they were on the 15th floor of one of the towers.
We found the rig. It was buried in rubble. We thought we couldn't get it out of there. I got in the rig and I drove it through the I-beams and the dust and the ash, and we pulled it up on West Street. And we pumped water into a 15 truck, into the Marriott, and just did what we could. But scattered around us was just all the people who had jumped out of the building. So we marked all the pieces of bodies with cones. And we told the incoming units, the bodies are cones, don't go near the cones. It was worse than a war zone. Whatever those people saw in Vietnam couldn't even compare to this. The atmosphere in the firehouse was quieter than a library. We sent guys back and forth over in vans to dig. And as each van came back, we waited at the door, just hoping that they had some good news. As soon as it would pull up, we would go, "What do you got?" Every time it was nothing. And we knew we had some of the strongest, toughest firemen in there. We kept saying, "Leon's holding up the building, Vernon's telling a story, Scotty's stealing somebody's clothes." We just knew that there had to be hope that they were still in there. We're running out of hope.
Eight days after September the 11th, the shock of the terrorist attack is still barely sinking in.
That's what's left of the 12th floor of the World Trade Center, the South Tower, because I counted it. I counted the gaps in between the steel, where the windows would be, and that's what's left of the 12th floor, those two pieces sticking up. And that should be for peace, not victory.
At Brooklyn, despite desperate efforts to find Ladder 118, only the body of Captain Marty Egan has been found.
How you doing? It's Richard Murray from 205. Yeah. I'm hanging in there, brother. I need a favor. I want you to cover our spot tomorrow. 9 to 12 for the engine. We gotta go to Marty Egan's funeral.
We're dealing with 8 families and possibly 8 funerals. That's unheard of. I've never planned a funeral in my life. I don't know what I'm doing, and neither does anybody else, and now we're trying to do 8 of them.
The more work the two of us do, we feel better. You know, we do all the paperwork, so as long as we're running around doing something, keeping busy, we're fine. When the lull comes, it's a little depressing.
Do we have anyone to play taps tomorrow?
No, I need that guy, Louis. I can't remember his name. Remember the twins? The guy?
No, I heard you talking before.
I can't remember his name.
Captain Kenny Erb is taking his first night away from the firehouse in 8 days to be with his fiancée.
Don't imagine after 22 years on the fire department, being a captain, being a fireman, and 2 assignments, a lieutenant assignment, captain assignment. I know a lot of people, and out of the 343, I would have to say 60 very close friends. People I, would stop in the street and hug and say, "How are you?" And it's tough. And that has not hit home with me yet.
When Kenny is with his firemen friends, they're so loyal and so close. With so many people that they've known that got hurt or got killed or missing. He's known them for maybe 15, 20 years and working with them for years and years and years. It's just really sad, to see that. Don't be sad. Don't be sad, honey. You gotta put that in the barbecue.
Marty was my probie when he first came on the job in West Brighton. I showed him the ropes and brought him up and stuff like that. He was into studying, he was into reading, he was into making the next grade, becoming a lieutenant, and he became a captain. And he was studying for a chief. And I can see him going places, you know. He has two small kids, he wants the best for them.
We believe that any firefighter anywhere in the world that dies, we can identify with them. And I come to say, I know what you did and I understand. And I respect you and we salute you. We come because there's no one else on earth can know what we're doing except us. So we come. Arranging Marty Egan's funeral was very sad because we knew it was going to be completely different than any other traditional fire department funeral. We had trouble getting bagpipers. Usually you get the whole contingent, everyone. We had to borrow the schools of Aryan High School to meet up with the 4 or 5 pipers. Traditionally, 6,000 to 10,000 firemen stand in the street at attention and honor the guy as he goes by. We maybe had 2,000, and only because he was an early find. Traditionally, after the funeral, you have a gigantic collation. All the firemen in the job, all the visitors from all out of the state, have a couple of drinks, and they eat some food, and they all talk about the job, about Marty, about his life. Here, everybody went home. And a very popular and wonderful guy. And he got shortchanged. And it wasn't fair.
I haven't acknowledged my family since it happened. I go home, I cry, I get in my car, I come back to work. Where are you gonna go?
The only refuge now is the firehouse. You go to the firehouse, you work, maybe you catch a fire, you get your mind off.
That's what I do.
Loss of people. And I can't wait till my 20 years are up. I'm retiring. I ain't sticking around for this. The fear of dying? For what? You never know. When your number's up, that's it. So life goes on. I'll start another career. I don't care. I'm done.
They say you're lucky that you made it out of there. Am I lucky? I gotta bury 300 guys. How lucky am I?
You okay? I got 300 guys.
Vinny Sonato, with just 11 months' service as a probationer or probie, is the newest member at Brooklyn Firehouse.
Well, you have the captain, who's the highest, then you have the lieutenant, then you have the senior man, which is the guy who has more time than anybody else, then you have everybody else, then you have the firehouse dog, and then you have me. So that pretty much sums it all up.
Since September the 11th, Vinny has been working at Ground Zero.
You walk on pieces of I-beams that are maybe 2 feet wide, and you gotta walk across, and there's nothing but rubble underneath, a piece of sharp metal, rocks. It's always dangerous out there. The thought that there might have been some chemical weapon on the airplane crossed everybody's mind, but a lot of people didn't want to talk about it because it was just, the thought was just unbearable.
6 firefighters were rescued on the first day, but since then there's been no further good news and no sign of Ladder 118.
We just felt hopeless, and we just wanted to get in there and dig and get our guys out. They taught me a lot, those 8 guys. You know, Vernon Cherry, he actually gave me some advice on life. He told me that he was married. Oh, he was married forever. And he told me, you know, do what I did. Find yourself a good woman and stick with her, be true to her. And he told me a lot.
Come in. Hey, Joanne. How you doing?
Like all the families of missing men, Vernon Cherry's wife and daughter make regular trips to the Brooklyn firehouse.
Yeah, well, it pretty much looks like a new one. Brand new.
My mother and I have come here today because she feels closer to
Stick around, Rich.
my father's co-workers, which are like his brothers. He spent just as much time here as he has at home. At least that's what I think. And this is like his family, the other part of his family, and she wants to be close to them. This is my daughter, Jada Faith. Faith is, we named her Faith because we have faith in that everything's going to be okay, one way or another. And this is my father's 4th grandchild. And she was born 3 days after the tragedy. Hi. And we were looking forward to meeting Grandpa. Right? Yeah. He's a good dad. Righteous man. Very righteous man. He's, I think I know more about him now that he's missing than I ever did when he was here. My mother believes that God can make miracles. And she's praying for a miracle. What's the matter? What's the matter?
And here's your dad in a golf cart. And I know your dad always loved to sing.
Oh, he's a singer.
He's sure is.
He's gonna keep singing forever.
I know. This must have been at Rosie's wedding.
He sang at a lot of people's weddings.
And this is Rosie's wedding with your mother. How I could tell, the same tie, same suit.
Yeah. Same day.
Same day. I know it's hard. I know it's very hard. It's the hardest thing in my life.
Yeah, right.
With New York slipping into depression, the tragedy dominates the news. Recession is looming, Broadway shows are closing, even crime is down. There's an outpouring of sympathy towards the city's firefighters.
I don't even know what to do this.
On the table?
The captain's supposed to be smart, so he knows that that's where my head goes?
No, right here.
See, I messed up.
Face down.
I'm taking this one, right? Yeah, take it for me.
New York masseurs are offering their services to the fire department for free.
I just hope we've helped the guys this week.
Oh, you have. Especially when they were doing a lot of work at Ground Zero, helping them get out the stiffness, because there was a lot of lifting and stuff.
It was very difficult for us to get them even in here. They didn't want to come down off of that, adrenaline rush, and I think it was very difficult for them to get off that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a tight spot. The counselor was explaining to us how, in the beginning, the brain doesn't know how to file things, especially things that are so horrific, you know, and the brain is confused. Once or twice a day, you stop and you think that this didn't really happen. You know, it's still just so unbelievable.
So unbelievable.
I don't know if he's wrong.
Everybody goes.
Back in Brooklyn, still no news of Ladder 118. Over 2 weeks have passed since the tragedy. Richie Murray is in the midst of planning the memorial for the 7 missing men. But he's having to hustle with other fire stations to get cover.
Surviving, brother, you know the deal. Yeah, October 11th. Yeah, that's gonna be the Firehouse 8 guys memorial service. There's nothing down for Leon or Vernon yet, so. We're on the list to get guys. So you don't even think it bothers trying to pull strings here, right? All right, Peter, thanks. I appreciate it anyway. We can't get Costello either.
Great. So we got nobody.
And if anybody else has any ideas, before they start sending us strangers, Ryan would be glad to come back.
I don't know about that anymore.
What we do in our firehouse to combat the anger is we put the target of the day up. We put the guy on the board who's caused us the most trouble. Sometimes it's Osama bin Laden, sometimes the commissioner of the department, sometimes it's just the guy next door who's telling us to move the garbage cans in the midst of all of this. We take out our anger on that. We hope it only lasts a couple hours and we move on. But we're angry. We're angry people right now. He said that he can't let it. He's getting 5 details in tonight, he said. The stress has become things that we've never dealt with before. We fight over who's late. We fight over who uses the phone too long. We're yelling at our kids, losing our tempers. We're fighting with each other. Can't sleep at night. Pictures in our mind don't stop. Missing our friends don't stop. We don't have the enthusiasm we used to have. They killed our camaraderie and our morale. They destroyed the brotherhood of this job, of the love of coming to work every day. It's torturing us right now. It's just, there's no way to express how hard it is to come to work when it used to be so wonderful to come to work.
John Sorrentino, now fulfilling the role of family liaison officer, is finding grieving almost impossible.
If it was one guy, I think we'd all feel it more right away. You know, of course, this hurts 10 times more. You spend a minute thinking about this guy and a minute thinking about the next guy. You can't focus on one guy, and you start thinking of a funny story about one guy, then all of a sudden a story pops in about somebody else. And I don't know if that's good or bad. You can't maintain your level of concentration to have time to grieve for one specific guy. And it's impossible to grieve for 8 guys at the same time. So it's just, I think it's mass confusion going on in everybody's head right now.
Steve Wojciechowski from the West 31st Street Firehouse is on his way to Shea Stadium.
It's going to suck if we don't make it.
It's the first baseball game since the tragedy. The New York Mets are donating their wages, $500,000, to the firemen and police.
Just want to say I'm sorry that you lost.
Thanks, appreciate that, man.
Thank you.
Skyline just doesn't look the same without those towers.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to Shea Stadium for tonight's game between the New York Mets and the visiting Atlanta Braves. We return to our national pastime, in part to show that America can and will go on.
The fire department have sent representatives from every station in the city to unfurl the stars and stripes in front of their fellow New Yorkers.
Everybody's so USA, it runs chills down your spine. You know, you look around the stadium, you got families here, and that's what America's all about. You got little kids waving American flags, you know, and it's just like, it touches the heart, you know, it's just incredible. This country was based on freedom and democracy, all right? And this was an unprovoked act, and there's a lot of people pissed off right now. So whatever President Bush decides to do, as far as his decisions, where we go from here, I'm behind him 100%.
Top billing is given to Liza Minnelli. At Ground Zero, the rescue has become a recovery in all but name. But in Brooklyn, the families continue to hang on for any scrap of news.
In the last hour, 16 firefighters were recovered. We don't know who they are. One of the wives was upstairs and saw it on the news. She broke down crying. Can't I use a hook? Can't I find a way to find out if it's them? She's planning a memorial without a body. Now, she has renewed hope that maybe she can have closure and find the body. And we can't do anything to speed up the effort. And it's just, this is the continuing saga. And we know what's going to happen. They're going to find the bodies on some of them, and we're going to do it again. It's never ending. It's just way too long. It's exhausting.
Unlike many of the wives who have accepted their husbands are dead, Vernon's wife continues to pray for a miracle.
My mother is still keeping hope because she feels my father would want her to keep hope. I can't even imagine what her pain is like. Being with someone almost all your life. She's 49 years old, and she met him when she was 16 years old, and she's been with him ever since. So they're like true soulmates. And for him not to be here, this is the longest they've ever been separated, apart. And who knows? Maybe he'll come back.
Listen, you gotta go easy on the bacon. It's only like a half a pound bacon per man, all right?
At Captain Kenny's firehouse, they have already buried 5 of their men. Today, 19 days since September the 11th, there is to be some form of closure with a memorial for the last fireman, Steve Belson.
We're burying another friend. Well, actually, we're not even burying him. We're just having a memorial service because we haven't found him yet, but it's very little hope. We've just had so many funerals and memorial services. It's just, you know, can't even get this. Steve found something outside the fire department that made him happy, you know? It was his girlfriend, you know, Josephine. So he was very content with himself, and he really, you know, you could see it on his face, and you know how he acted, and he was smiling all the time, you know. So and the toughest thing of getting dressed in these Class A's, as you can see, is getting these darn pins on. I hate this stuff.
He will always be in my heart. He's a very special person. He's the nicest person I've ever met. And I've been married twice. And he's actually was the nicest person I've ever met. But I don't think that he would want me to not move on. So eventually I will. I'll move on. But he'll always hold a very, very special place in my heart.
All right, man. How
you doing, bro? Good? Yeah. Hanging in there, Reb.
Could do better, right?
What else can we do, man? We got each other, man. We're still alive and we have each other, man. That's the best I can tell you, you know? What's up, Steven? What's up, man? Sit down, brother.
Everybody said that. What was up with that? Everybody
You
thought it
said
was-
that to us. You
I
told
never
us.
said that.
You
You
said
said
it your life.
spoken. Never said that.
What happened?
They're bombing Afghanistan.
We are?
Yep. Auxiliary twice. Hit auxiliary twice.
As a terrorist base of operations and to attack the military capability of the Taliban regime.
You go, George.
We are joined in this operation by our staunch friend, Great Britain. Our military action is also designed to clear the way for sustained, comprehensive, and relentless operations to drive them out and bring them to justice. At the same time,
That's it. The end. Too bad. We got no warning for innocent people. They got plenty of warning for innocent people. Almost a month now. Party's over. Carpet bomb the whole place.
Peace and freedom will prevail. Thank you. May God continue to bless America.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. If they're bombing there, be ready for something happening here. We bomb them.
That's their signal. They've been told a week and a half ago.
That's exactly right. As soon as they drop a bomb,
do your next thing.
Make your next move. So, anybody want to work for me?
I understand today our country has attacked Afghanistan, and it doesn't make me feel any better. I don't feel any revenge, that we should have revenge against that country.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm sure that somebody in Afghanistan, a daughter like me, is just lost her father and feels the same way I do. I would never wish that on anybody.
Yeah. My father never raised me to be that, so a mean or angry person. So he would probably say the same thing I'm saying. We have no business fighting them people.
So many people have been affected. We're not the only family that's grieving. There's thousands of families affected, and now there's even more people on the other side of the world.
You should have some respect. Have some respect for your country. Oh, because a dictator stole my country. Get out and don't love America. Get out. Sick of you. Sick of you. You traitors.
Nearly a month after the tragedy, thoughts are beginning to turn to the future of the fire department. 343 firemen are dead, amongst them many of Captain Kenny's peers.
We are going to bring a lot of new people on, so there's a lot of new chiefs, new captains, new lieutenants. The guys who are presently going through that training, 17 of them were killed in the World Trade Center, so they only got a little taste of the firehouse, and that was the end of their career, unfortunately. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of young blood on the job. But what's the alternative? There isn't an alternative, you know.
Inevitably, there is talk of resignation and retirement.
Retirements are going to happen. Guys who have 20 years on the job are going to retire because most guys are going to say, I made it through this, I'm taking my pension, I'm leaving. Well, the average age right now is in the 30s. It's going to go into the 20s, the average of the department.
I have 22 years. My plan was to stay at least 25, and I had been thinking about staying at 30. And I was just going to go back to Brooklyn where I started as a fireman, and just for a change of pace, get out of the Midtown madness. But I can't leave now, not after this, you know. It's not in my agenda. I'm happy where, you know, where I am.
In the last 24 hours, Vinny has become a fully fledged fireman.
Is this your groups?
This is his groups, yes.
Yeah, baby.
I came off probation yesterday, and today's my first day. As soon as you get probation, your first night tour, it's a tradition that you have to buy the meal. So I gotta buy the meal tonight.
You had a year to save up for this. And already they're crying. I have to buy it tonight. Yeah. You got a year to think about it. Hey, where are the baby wipes?
Buying the meal means the whole crew has to go to the supermarket in case they get an emergency call.
This is, in my eyes, the last honorable job left. To me, there's no better job in the world. When people see that big red truck pull up, they know that, you know, everything's gonna be all right. You could work Wall Street, make millions of dollars a year, but I go home, I feel great. I go home, I feel great. With all these senior men leaving, they're gonna be missed because a lot of experience is gonna be gone. A lot. I mean, the respect that you give a senior man, he earned that respect. Like, it would take me 25 years to know what Richie Murray knows in, you know, in 20.
Serve the meal, you Johnny. Let's go.
Is this your meal?
This is the meal.
You made this?
Probably made it, yeah.
Here, congratulations.
Yeah, he made it.
20 years, 25 years down the road, they're literally gonna have to kick me out because I'm not leaving.
Never had lasagna with steak, but hey, there's a first time for everything, right?
I'm not leaving. I love this job. I'm not leaving.
You the man.
Thanks.
It still sucks.
You know, I'm a fireman. I'm a fireman.
Woke to find the sky on fire. One plane hit low and one hit higher. I watched the tumbling towers hit the ground.
Just appreciate everything more. And think about the guys that aren't here anymore and how they won't see the things that I appreciate, like going to the beach. Simple things.
So let that flag fly proud and free, red, white, and blue for all to see.
I guess there'll always be before September 11th and after September 11th, and that'll be a date that defines our lives.
Reconnect the broken hands, but this changed everything. We'll let that flag fly proud and free, red, white, and blue for all to see. Listen for that bell that freedom brings. Count your blessings, count your friends, reconnect the broken ends, but this changed everything. Yeah, let that flag fly proud and free, red, white, and blue for all to see. Listen.